Hey there, guys. This is Cole. Welcome back to another movie review for the October season. Recently, here I reviewed two horror movies with Train to Busan and the Until Dawn movie. So I figured, I'm still gonna review horror movies this October, but I think I'll review at least two or three family themed Halloween movies. Maybe four if I get time. We'll see. But today's movie I'm going to be reviewing is the 2009 stop-motion animated film Coraline. Now, this is a movie that throughout the years I had heard good things about, but until today, never got around to actually watching the movie. And it's also a movie I had seen bits and pieces of here and there, but until today, I never saw the full movie through its entirety. And I gotta say, I rather liked this movie, and to be perfectly honest, I do not know why it took me so long to watch this movie. And and this movie was done by Leica Productions, who did the 2012 movie Paranorman, which is one of my favorite animated kids movies, and it's a movie I grew up watching a lot. So I'm like, okay, the company of that doing a movie before then, I'm like, I gotta check this out. And yeah, I really liked this movie. But anyways, so what is the plot of the movie Coraline for those who don't know? The plot of the movie is as follows. A curious young girl discovers a secret parallel world that seems better than her own until its sinister secrets threaten to trap her there forever. So that's the plot synopsis to the movie, and one thing I will say about this movie is this movie does have a good cast of actors voicing the characters. I mean, you got Dakota Fanning as the main character, Coraline. You got Jennifer Saunders as Coraline's mother, Terry Hatcher as Coraline's dad, and there's a character who we'll get to who is voiced by Keith David, who I rather enjoy as an actor. So yeah, this movie overall has got a really good cast, and I like the story to this movie. And this movie was actually directed by Henry Selick, who prior to this had directed movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas and James and the Giant Peach, two movies that I rather enjoyed. So I knew that this was going to be a movie I'd like, and yeah, I did rather like this movie. So let's just get into the review. So the movie starts off where the movie starts off where there's this giant hand that's like made out of metal with like needles for fingers, but basically this giant hand, it's basically sewing a puppet together that looks like the main character Coraline, which does play a big part in the movie, which we'll get to. And then it is shipped to her house, and there's a boy named Wyfrey, I think that's how you say his name, and this boy just so happens to deliver this doll with like the buttons for, and keep in mind this doll that's being made has little black buttons for eyes, but the puppet essentially does look like the main character of the movie Coraline, which again does play a big feature into the movie. And then not long after that, we are introduced to our main character of the movie, Coraline, who is a young girl that, she goes to school and stuff like that. But let's just say she's not too happy with how her world is, because because things for her never go out the way that she wants planned and stuff like that. But then one day, in the movie, she basically finds this door. Well, it's like a small door, but it's one you have to crawl through, but it's like a 2-foot tall door. And Coraline's mother unlocks it, and Coraline sees that this door was basically blocked off by a brick wall and stuff like that. And then later that night, she goes back to it, but this time she sees that like there's a colorful tunnel in it. She climbs through the tunnel, and she discovers this parallel world, which the only difference is with this world is that essentially it's the same characters, but the only difference is like like she sees different versions of people she knows. Like, for example, she walks into the kitchen to see her mom cooking, but the only difference is that Coraline's mom has buttons for eyes, specifically black buttons that you would see sewn onto a doll and stuff like that. And she was like, wait a minute, mom. And then eventually, and like I said, at first, Coraline is enjoying this new world she's in, and she does prefer it to her current world and stuff like that. One character I did like in this movie was Wimbry, which is Wybry, which is a character she meets in the movie, but it's the character that gave her the doll and stuff like that, the doll that looked like Coraline. And the whole reason Coraline wants to get away from just her world is because she feels like her parents aren't giving her the attention she wants and stuff like that, and, a whole bunch of other stuff. And when she goes to this parallel world, she is having a rather fun time. Like, for example, in Coraline's normal world, like, she couldn't go outside when it was raining for mud and stuff like that, for gardening, but she can do it in this world, and she's really enjoying the new change in the movie. However, she finds out that it's not exactly all sunshine and rainbows like Coraline thought it was, because she meets a black cat who is actually voiced by Keith David, who, again, I do rather like Keith David as an actor. He was in the 1997 disaster movie Volcano with Tommy Lee Jones, which I really like that movie. I just reviewed it recently. And Keith David was also in Princess and the Frog, an animated movie that was released the same year this movie was, 2009. But he was also in movies like the 1982 movie The Thing, starring Kurt Russell, directed by John Carpenter. I absolutely love that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. He was also in the 1988 action movie They Live, starring Roddy Piper, directed by John Carpenter. But yeah, Keith David I really like as an actor, so it's nice to see him in this movie. And this black cat that Coraline meets is a cat. It's essentially the cat that she owns at her house, but however, like, the cat cannot talk in Coraline's world, but it can talk in this parallel world that she's discovered. And the black cat basically tells her that this world is not as good as you think it is, and bad stuff will happen, like trying to warn her and stuff like that. And I will say, this movie does fly by at a rather good pace. The movie, it's only 101 minutes, and it honestly flies by. It doesn't feel like that. I was never once bored watching this movie. Like, that's one thing I give Henry Selick credit as a director for. He knows how to pace his movies rather well. And at about the 52-minute mark of the movie, when Coraline is, in the kitchen, eating dinner with her other parents, basically the parents with, like, the buttons sewn onto their eyes, they basically ask Coraline if you want to stay here forever, but they strike a deal that she's not too fond of. Basically, they say the only way you can permanently stay in this world is if you sew buttons on your eyes to become one of us. And she's like, nope, I'm out of here and stuff like that, realizing that going to this world was a big mistake. And one thing I will say about this movie, the evil version of Coraline's mom, which is really a monster that takes the form of her mom, I will say is a rather, for an animated kids movie, is a rather creepy looking villain. And like I said, this is a kids movie. This is a family themed kids movie, but I do think that that this villain of the movie is rather good. And Coraline gets back to her house, but she sees that her parents are trapped inside the mirror with, like, ice around them, and the parents, the mother writes, help us on the other side of the mirror. So then Coraline has to go back to the parallel world to save her parents, which I thought was a really good plot. But then Coraline strikes a deal with the other, not her real mom, but, like, the mom from, like, the other dimension, the one with the button eyes. And Coraline says, if I win this game, you free my parents and all the kids, because Coraline, not only does she have to rescue her parents, but there are these kids who basically their souls were trapped and stuff like that. Like, and the way Coraline has to free, in the way Coraline has to free the souls of these kids is she basically has to get their butt and eyes and stuff like that. But she's on a limited time crunch. Like, she has to get it done as soon as she can. And the whole part when Coraline, she sees a snow globe with her parents in it, but like the evil version of Coraline's mom is about to attack Coraline, but Coraline takes the cat and throws it at her, and the cat even rips the button-up eyes off of the evil version of Coraline's mom, and Coraline tries to escape, but she was like, you dirty cheater and stuff like that. And then Coraline falls down a hole, but it's like white, and there's like these spider webs, but she has to climb up it as quick as she can. And so, yeah, she does manage to escape the world and stuff like that, and break the snow globe and stuff like that. And then Coraline is back home with her parents, her mom and her dad, covered in snow, when they're like, they're completely unfazed, like they don't notice it at all. And then Coraline says, hey, I'm glad to finally see you again and stuff like that. But later that night, we all think it's over, but it's not, because when Coraline is in bed with her black cat, so something I forgot to mention, earlier on in the movie, the mom, Coraline was at a store, but her mom said she couldn't get the orange mittens she wanted, but closer to the end of the movie, the mom makes up for that and gives it to her as a present and stuff like that. But then later that night, when Coraline's asleep, she's woken up by the spirits of the ghost children, and the ghost children tell her, "Thanks for freeing us, but it's bad. Like we're free, but you're not. Like, we got to take care of this. That you got to take care of this and finally defeat the lady once and for all, and hide the key where she'll never find it." Which does lead to a rather good sequence closer to the end of the movie, where the evil version of Coraline's mom, the doppelganger, but the one with the button-up eyes, not her, but her hand, basically the metal hand of this, the metal hand with the needles for fingers, basically, because it got stuck underneath the door, the hand does come out and it chases Coraline, and then Coraline's friend has to show up, and eventually, they manage to destroy the hand by chucking, with Coraline's friend, chucking the rock on top of it. And then they basically put it inside a bag, and they basically throw the hand down the well where no one will ever find it again. And then the movie ends when Coraline's friend, her grandma, because keep in mind, because the doll that looks exactly like Coraline that her friend gave her was something the grandma made that the kid took from his grandma. At the end of the movie, the grandma shows up with her grandson, aka Coraline's friend, and then Coraline Jones meets the grandma and says, "Hi, I'm Coraline. I have so much to tell you," and then the movie ends. So yeah, at the end of the day, I did rather like this movie. Again, I don't know why it took me so long to watch this movie, but hey, I'm glad I finally got the chance to watch it. And I will say this. If any of you parents have kids out there that like watching kids' animated movies set on the October season, this is definitely a movie that I would recommend to kids who enjoy watching, Halloween movies, but ones that are geared for kids. This is definitely one of the best movies of that genre, and I did rather like this movie. I would not mind picking this movie up on Blu-ray or DVD someday. And who knows? It's not going to be anytime soon, probably not, but if I ever do have kids in a near future, at least a decade from now, again, probably won't, but if I ever do someday get kids, I would not mind showing them this movie, because I rather enjoyed it. So yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm going to give Coraline a 9 out of 10. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my review, and next up, I'm going to be reviewing Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. So, yeah, we'll take a look at that movie next, and we'll keep the October movie review season going. Later.